Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! The following video will contain spoilers from The Flash Season 3 episode titled Into the Speed Force. So if you don't want anything spoiler ruined for you, stop watching now. For everybody else, hey guys, Dave here, and I'm not usually one to want to make this thing my usual new helmet every time I do a Flash review or a video, but last night's episode was extremely important. I felt like I had to do that out of respect. I mean, when I first saw this episode, it was holy crap. It was one of the better ones done. And if you've been following the show from the beginning to now, the cameos and everything in it were pretty darn incredible. I know that the season's been pretty hit and miss, but this time was a big hit. So, Barry is going through blaming himself for Wally getting trapped in the Speed Force and Savitar escaping. He wants to make sure that no one of his friends ever get hurt again. So he's going to go into the Speed Force and try to get Wally out of whatever prison he was in. Jessie wants to volunteer and go with him, but Barry talks her out of it because while he's gone, someone needs to protect the city. So she eventually agrees. But she wants revenge on Savitar for what he did to Wally in the worst way. HR comes up with a brilliant idea for Cisco to use an interdimensional tether tag to track down Barry so that once he gets Wally, they'll have a signal in the Speed Force and Cisco can retrieve them. So, Cisco opens a breach into the Speed Force, drops Barry off, and while this is going on, they try to examine the fragment that they got of Savitar's armor. Barry starts facing various trials, similar to Ebenezer Scrooge and the Ghost of Christmas Past, Present, and Future. He gets to see the lives of what might have been and what was. First, what we got to see back is Eddie Thawne, Rick Cosnet returning, showing about the life that he could have had with Iris, and pretty much getting into Barry's head about the possibilities of what could be and what you should change and what you shouldn't. Barry decides he's going to stay in there until he gets Wally out, even if he has to stay there forever. He has to face a time wraith, and he gets to the elevator, which acts as the door from one part to another. The next thing he ends up in is from the replica of the police station into Star Labs, where Caitlin is having a baby, and he gets to see Ronnie Firestorm returned. And he starts giving him a guilt trip about the life that he and Caitlin could have had, and the child that could have been born out of it. But that didn't happen either. Meanwhile, they're examining the fragment from Savitar's armor, and they figured out that this material is actually similar to the case that the Philosopher's Stone came in. The outside of it's pretty stable, but the inside is moving at a high rate. It's almost as if it's trying to get back to Savitar. So Jessie decides to use it as a tracking device to get to Savitar. HR puts his foot in his mouth again by saying we should wait. You're not powerful to take Savitar on your own, and we should wait for a real Flash to show up. That did not go over very well, considering she is a real Flash on Earth, too. Eventually, she decides to take the shard and go after it on her own. And this comes the big trial period here, because she knocks HR out and goes trailing off. So we end up having Jesse Quick versus Savitar, which does not go very well. He starts to call back the armor piece for him and snatches up Jessie he bounces around a few times in the fight, grabs her by the throat, and says, "I have special plans for you." Screaming for help, trying to figure out anything to do. Wildly, Jesse stabs Savitar with a piece of his own armor into his neck, which seemed to be a soft spot. At that point, he let her go and took off, and Jessie still had the fragment. So she learned her lesson about rushing in, because that kind of attitude is what got Wally in the trouble in the first place, but she had to do something. Meanwhile, The trial of the Flash, as it were, means he has to face Hunter Zolomon, a.k.a. the Black Flash, in here. And to get away from him and hit the elevator, he had to take off the dimensional tether and attack Hunter with it. It knocked him away as he was getting his life force drained. He manages to get into the elevator. And the third place, a hospital, where he is confronted by a Speed Force remnant appearing to be Leonard Snart, Captain Cold. And they keep on testing Barry because he has a habit of saying one thing and doing another. He wasn't okay with his mother dying, and they knew about his father dying and all that, and they were allowing certain things, that they have plans for the Flash. But there are still certain rules that had to be followed. Captain Cold starts blasting Barry, and we get a reprieve. Boom. Jay Garrick shows up. And it's not a remnant from the Speed Force, it's the actual Jay. Turns out when Barry went in, Cisco went ahead to Earth 3 to retrieve Jay for a little help. So together, they enter the hospital room where it is effectively, this is the prison that Savitar was in. Imagine having to relive your worst moment over and over again. This is what Savitar had to go through. Now, we don't know what his trial was, but for Wally, it was watching his mother die over and over and over again. Very similar to what Hunter Zolomon, Zoom, had to go through in the comics when he faced Wally West. So, interesting little nod there. Barry manages to try getting Wally out, even at sometimes thinking about sacrificing himself and taking his place. But Jay stays behind. Now, before he said anything, I knew that Jay was going to do it. And he said, look, someone had to stay behind. Someone has to take this place. I ran my race. I'm okay with it because I owe you. And he hands off the helmet, saying, you can use this to find me again. And I also used it to get back. So Jay Garrick sacrifices himself into the Speed Force to be trapped there. We have no idea what his hell is going to be, but it will be reliving his worst moments over and over. Barry and Wally are freed, and they're trying to find out what's going on with Jay, but he's not coming back. One day they hope to get him back, and they put the helmet in a special place in Star Labs, vowing to get him back one day. Jessie seems to have learned her lesson, and now instead of staying on Earth 1, she's heading to Earth 3. Since Jay sacrificed himself, she's going to head to Earth 3 to be that world's hero. It just seems right. Meanwhile, Barry is back with Iris. They start talking about their relationship and how Barry tried to cheat fate, but he's starting to realize that there are things that he has to do. He has to be the one to face Savitar, not passing the buck on to someone else. He has to face him. And what's worse, he's decided that a trial separation from Iris, giving her and him some space, is the only way to really help. So, Barry's going to stay with Cisco while Iris is at the apartment, and she is not happy about it. There's no epilogue for what's coming up next, but next episode will be the 2-part crossover with Supergirl and the musical episode with the Music Meister. I know I have a few friends on my list that are a little reluctant for it, but I'm still going to give it a shot. Overall, I thought this is one of the better episodes this season. It definitely tugged at the heartstrings, and just seeing Jay do the heroic sacrifice, I mean, that shows the true measure of the hero, and Barry's still learning about that. So hopefully we're going to get to see more of a better Barry in the future. But Jay is now trapped in a prison. Hopefully he will be able to be rescued again. So that's going to be coming up. So what did you guys think overall of the episode? Like I said, I thought it was one of the better ones. It was great seeing some classic faces overall. All right, well, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, share, and if you have a chance, check out my last video if you look for a good laugh I did the Roast of Savitar. So I know he's a big armored guy that looks like a transformer, and I take him down a few pegs. So until next time, guys, Dave signing off. Peace.